una charla de amigos, sin café, pero con agua, y no va a salir en ninguna parte. Joffre ahora prometió que va a hablar de quiénes son los impresentables argentinos, no hablemos de los otros porque no los conocemos, los otros extranjeros impresentables que rodean al Papa.
¿Te acuerdas cuando salieron al aire las llamadas telefónicas en medio por las negociaciones con Irán?
Sí, claro.
Hay una charla de Yusuf, ¿te acuerdas de Yusuf?
Sí, sí,
que habla
el
con
de la verdulería.
Karim no sé cuánto. Lo publicó La Nación y después desapareció. Yusuf le cuenta a Karim que había tenido un encuentro con el jefe de la inteligencia del Vaticano acá, porque Bergoglio tiene un jefe de inteligencia acá, yo lo conozco. El jefe de inteligencia...
¿Es un cura o,
no,
o un civil?
El jefe de inteligencia le dice a Yusuf que él es masón, él, el jefe de inteligencia, y el Papa también. Eso salió en La Nación, lo podía escuchar, yo lo he escuchado mil veces porque no podía dar crédito. No me asustan los masones, porque finalmente vos y yo sabemos, y vos también, que en este país hubo mucho masón, en las presidencias.
Mucho presidente masón.
Mucho presidente masón, y grandes presidentes algunos de ellos. Pero una cosa es ser presidente de la República Argentina.
Muchos ministros masones actuales.
Sí, ya sé.
Por eso, ¿cuál es el...?
No me has leído, Roberto. No me has leído el escarmiento, por ejemplo.
No, pero yo digo de la actualidad.
De la actualidad, no tengo nada.
Ah, sí.
No averiguando.
No, porque hay una curiosidad. Vos tenés masones muy católicos, según vos, Bergoglio, y hay masones de origen judío.
Bueno, te digo,
todos reunidos en Malta.
Un tipo que
los grandes, ¿no?
Todo el día con Vera.
Sí.
Y Vera es un personaje casi modesto, por no decir siniestro. Ese entra a Santa Marta, el mismo Marcelito.
¿Estás hablando?
De Marcelito Sánchez Orondo, que andaba corriendo detrás de ciertos embajadores argentinos en el Vaticano.
Bueno, para recomendarle seguramente lugares.
No, la Jaliba.
No tenemos nadie más.
Jaliba, eso es valija.
Sí, siempre hay, Roberto. Pero la verdad que
iba a Malta.
Lo dejamos,
¿la carne?
Lo dejamos al Papa acá porque esto está tomando una temperatura que no estaba prevista en este caso.
Take a look at these three photographs again. They were the ones of Karl Marx, George Washington, and Marquis de Lafayette. If you missed it, here they are again side by side. Look at what they're all doing with their right hand. Now why are they all hiding their hand like that? What does this hidden hand gesture mean? Does it mean anything at all? Perhaps it's just coincidence. Well, let's take a look at some more portraits of famous personalities from history. It happens far too often to be coincidence. This hiding of the hand gesture is actually from the 13th degree of Freemasonry, which is also known as the Royal Arch degree. It is symbolized with the triple Tau. Now this gesture is the sign of the Master of the Second Veil. I won't go into the details of it, but basically what this gesture is doing is signaling to other initiates that they're part of the secret brotherhood and that their actions are inspired by Masonic beliefs. What they're saying is, it doesn't matter what I appear to be on the surface, this secret gesture tells you that we are working towards the same utopian end, you and I. We are both enlightened with the illuminating knowledge of Masonry. Remember in the Jesuits' oath they talked about being on opposing sides in public, but secretly we're working towards the same end. That's why we have both communists and capitalists making the same gesture here. Think also of the Hegelian principle, where two seemingly opposing ideologies are rubbed up against one another to create a synthesis. What these famous leaders are saying to the initiated is that there is a hidden force or hidden hand guiding the course of history, and that they are a part of it. It's that hidden hand that we've been following throughout the whole of this series, so it should come as no surprise to us by now that Satan is still at work in the world. These illuminated ones think Lucifer is good and following him will help mankind, but as Christians we know differently. We know that Satan disguises himself as an angel of light and always has.
Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger canceled plans to go to Bohemian Grove in California this weekend because of the possibility of more flare-ups in the Lebanon crisis. But even without the Defense Secretary, the Bohemian Grove will not close down for lack of power. And what is the Bohemian Grove? Well, it's a kind of summer camp for the powerful, an all-male gathering in great secrecy. More from Dennis Murphy.
George Shultz, Henry Kissinger, and West German Chancellor Schmidt arrived by car. The chairman of General Motors and U.S. Steel came in by private jet.
If you would look at the guest list over a period of 5 years, I don't think there would be anybody of any importance in America who was missing from that list.
Cabinet officers and captains of industry are going to summer camp at Bohemian Grove, an all-male retreat secluded in the Redwood Forest 2 hours north of San Francisco. Outsiders are not invited. What's hidden away is a little bit of Boy Scout camp and a lot of fraternity hokum. There are rituals, bonfires, and the burning of effigies. The members live in lodges with names like Wolf and Caveman. Gerald Ford, Henry Kissinger, William French Smith, and George Shultz are bunkmates at Mandalay Camp. President Reagan's camp, Owl's Nest, is famous for its Eggs Benedict and Ramos Gin Fizz breakfast. But for the most part, stories about what happens in these redwoods are hard to come by. A campground statue reminds Bohemians to keep their mouths shut about the Grove.
I've heard a lot of good music there. I've met a lot of interesting people, and I look forward to listening to music again.
But there are employees who tell tales out of school.
You know, I mean, half of these guys, you know, from what I can tell, you know, stay loaded or stay bombed, you know, the entire time that they're there. I mean, they stagger into breakfast and stagger out from dinner. But at the same time, you know, they're talking business.
And sometimes those business talks send ripples far beyond the Grove. Sociology professor William Domhoff.
Reagan and Nixon talked at length in 1967 in the Grove to decide who would go first in Republican primaries.
While decision makers are cementing friendships, protesters outside the gate are keeping a vigil. To them, the Bohemian Grove is an all-white, all-male, undemocratic policy-making arm of the government. They want the Bohemians to go home. But summer camp won't end until next week. Dennis Murphy, NBC News, Monterey.
Revealing about what goes on in a little place in California called the Bohemian Grove. That I am very interested in, and you should be also. Time and again, those close to the royal family have admitted that according to the royals themselves, the sin is not in doing something morally wrong, but in being found out. In other words, the end justifies the means. In his bid to enjoy his life with as little risk as possible, Philip sought to be invited overseas where he could behave with far more freedom. A favorite jaunt involved the famous Bohemian Grove, deep within the California redwoods. 65 miles north of San Francisco. Each summer, 1,000 or more very important persons, VIPs, the decision makers and opinion molders of the Western world, meet in mid-July to relax, attend lectures and debates, and enjoy themselves for 3 weeks. And they do more than that. They have some very peculiar pagan religion ceremonies, which involves a large fire, an owl sitting in a tree, all of them dressed in black robes, and they burn an effigy of care. For decades, the Bohemian Grove retreat was the major social event of America's male power elite and their overseas friends. And for decades, those who attended went in secret. Another reason Philip, as well as many others, loved to join them. In the 1970s, when Philip visited, members included Ronald Reagan, George Bush, George Shultz, Caspar Weinberger. Former Presidents Nixon and Ford were also members, as well as many of America's wealthiest businessmen. I have a photograph, ladies and gentlemen, of Bush, Nixon, Ford, and Carter, all around the fire, dressed in their black robes, circumambulating this fire while burning an effigy of care. An owl is hanging in the tree. They're wearing these very strange little amulets around their neck. It's all very indicative of a Druid or Celtic ceremony.
There are families now about the country in which Masonry is a forbidden topic because its introduction would revive the old quarrel and turn the peaceful tea table into a scene of hot and interminable contention. There are still old ladies, male and female, about the country who will tell you with grim gravity that if you trace up Masonry through all its orders, till you come to the grand tip-top head Mason of the world, you will discover that that dread individual and the chief of the Society of Jesuits are one and the same person. In Roman Catholic circles, so well is the power of the Jesuit recognized that the general of the Jesuits is called the Black Pope, in contrast to the Pope who, wearing white always, is called the White Pope. And it is implied that the Black Pope rules the White Pope, even while the former is obliged to make, at least, a show of submission to the latter.